Aloha, everybody. This is Dave Wallace coming to you from Waihawa, Hawaii, and welcome to my Sunday Talk Story Time. Uh, Today, I'd like to share with you a dream that I received back in the 1980s. This is the mid 1980s when I was working as a police officer up at BYU Provo. Now, as a police officer at BYU Provo, if you're working there on a campus, you were responsible for every building on campus, meaning you had a key for everything. All of us working there had keys. There's a big ring of keys that we used to carry around in our cars, patrol cars. So if in case of any type of emergency, we had a key to get into a building. So that was part of our responsibility and trust that we had. Now, some of us took advantage of these keys. We would take time off late at night when all of the facilities would be closed, and we'd take advantage of this access ability. Some of us, several times and stuff, uh, got into the Marriott Center, which is the activity center where the basketball games are played, and we got into there and had a pickup game of one-on-one or two-on-two basketball games right in Marriott Center. Okay, and sometimes we'd take our keys and late at night again, we go into the racquetball courts and open up the racquetball courts and have a game with each other, and we take a physical break. All of that was okay. Yeah, we could do that because as long as we tell our shift supervisors what's going on, and we did that. Okay. Now, um, along with this trust, there was some issues of abuse of power, and which is the subject that I'm going to be talking about tonight. Um, there was one man that worked at BYU Police that I became pretty close friends with. In fact, we had a working relationship as well as a relationship beyond the department. This young man was very well connected uh, politically in the Mormon church echelon. So his uncle was a very high-ranking person in the Mormon faith, very high. And so when he wanted to become a police officer, he not only came in as a police officer, but quickly rose to the ranks to be a supervisor, despite the fact of not having any experience in law enforcement. And so it was one of those scratch your head moments. How the heck? Yeah. So anyway, he was a supervisor and very young. Okay. And the relationship that I developed with him beyond the work environment had to do with the fact that I had gotten two shave ice machines, and I was using the shave ice machines to raise money, make money for the family, okay? Extra money. And once he found out that I had these shave ice machines, he started renting the machines from me because he was a scoutmaster and he wanted to raise money so that he could buy equipment for his scouts. And once I found out that that was the reason why he was renting my machines, I said, "Fine, it's a good idea. I support you." So he was renting the machines from me, and we became very good friends. Now, one morning, I had a very disturbing dream about him. And in this dream, I saw myself standing next to a tall granite cliff. And it was dark and it was rainy and pouring. And granite is very slippery. Yeah, and it's really, you can slide and slip and slide. And while I stood at the base and started looking up towards the mountain, I noticed a very narrow trail along the edge of this granite cliff face. And to my surprise, I saw this man, my friend, guiding his troop up the trail. And just as he was about to crest and reach the top of this granite cliff, granite face, I saw him slip and misstep. And when he misstepped, he slid on the trail, along the trail, trying to grab for things to keep him from falling. But it only accelerated his speed, and he went whoop, flying off of the trail, airborne, and came crashing down to the boulders right below the trail, and he landed with a splat. Now, as I seen him falling, I started calling out his name, calling out his name, and I'm panicking, and I started running towards where he would land. And when I got to the place where he would land, and I saw him exposed on a rock, he was on a big boulder, and he was stretched out, and his eyes were kind of like wide open, like big surprise. And the strange thing about it is that by the time I got to him, real close to him, while he was walking on the trail, he was wearing his scouting uniform, which is green. But when I got to him when he fell, he was wearing his police uniform, the navy blue, with stripes on the shoulders and everything. And the shirt was all the way rolled up to the top of below his chin. And his ribs and his abdominal cavity was all exposed. In fact, his guts was splattered out. And from my perspective, it looked like he had exploded from the inside out, like there was a bomb inside him and just went poof. So that kind of like was concerning, kind of confused me. And so I grabbed my radio and I tried radio it for help. And within a few minutes, the place was crawling with people. Most of them were police, and others were news reporters. And these news reporters were trying to ask questions. Okay, what happened and things like that. And for some reason, my fellow officers from BYU Police, we surrounded the body. And as people started coming close to ask us questions about the body, we didn't say anything, but we drew our guns and made the people to back off. And so it was really confusing. Why would we do something like this? Okay. So um, I had this dream early in the morning, and right when I woke up, I felt really, really bad that I knew something bad was going to happen to my friend. So I talked over my wife at the time, and she said, "Dave, you better go talk to this guy." Fortunately, that day I was waking up to go to work, and my supervisor at that time was this man. So when I got to work, right when I saw him, I says, "We need to talk. Can we have lunch?" So we arranged to have lunch at the BYU cafeteria. And at the point in time we got there, we got off and we went to eat. And I sat and started explaining to him the dream that I had. And I explained to him, I says, what, a lot of my dreams, sometimes it comes out in exactly the way it occurs, but most of the time these are metaphors and the symbolism behind it. And what I get from this dream, number one is if you're planning to go take your scouts, go hunting, stay away from granite cliffs. And he said, "Oh yeah, I don't take my kids there," and not the kind of place that you describe. I said, "Okay, if you're not going to take that, then it's a metaphor, and this metaphor is telling me to tell you to stay away from granite, any type of granite." Buildings or Mountain is something that is tall and made out of granite stairway, especially higher up on this granite place, because you're gonna fall. And the fall can be something real, or like being exposed. And while I was talking to that, he was looking at me kind of strange, and I said, something's hitting home with this guy. Okay, something's hitting home. A few days later at work, when I report to work, the captain calls a meeting with all of the officers. In fact, those that were not working had to come in to for this one meeting, so all of the officers was there. And the captain explained to us in this meeting that one of us officers was suspected of breaking into buildings late at night. And he doesn't know why this is happening, but they have evidence that they have evidence and probable cause that it has to be an officer that's doing this, because the places that they're accessing is only the only people that can go in is either one of the maintenance people or the police officer. And after talking with all of the maintenance people, we're the last ones. So for me, I felt like, wow, we're being accused of something um, this bad. It's dishonorable. Yeah, who would do that? So I left the meeting kind of like, shoot, so I'm not being trusted. My fellow officers are not being trusted. I felt disgusted. Anyway, a few nights later, okay, just a few days later, and so when we reported to work, we find out the night before, okay, um, this officer, a friend of mine, was caught by BYU by the detectives. And the background story we found out is that this officer, who was my supervisor and stuff, was taking a class and having a really, really hard time. I believe it was a math class. And he was having a really, really hard time. He was failing in the class. He was doing very poorly. And all of a sudden, you know, partway through the class, his tests started improving. He started acing in the tests. And the professor was saying, wow, this guy's struggling in my class, but he's acing my tests. What's happening? Then the professor started noticing something weird. In his office, sometimes he'd come early in his to his office in the morning, and he'd find papers that normally he keeps his papers pretty orderly, but sometimes when he comes in, the papers are disarrayed, and a couple of times he found his printer still on. Somebody was breaking in. And so, as the professor started looking at, trying to understand what was going on, he realized that someone was breaking into his room and going through his papers and making copies of something. What was it? He didn't understand, but his attention quickly turned to this police officer of ours. And so he contacted BYU police, talked to the detectives. The detectives say, okay, let's see if we can catch this guy. So they set up the professor's room with silent alarms. And on this one night, the alarms were tripped. And the detectives responded to this silent alarm, and they caught this officer in the process of making copies of the professor's tests. Okay, And when they caught him, he was trying to he jumped on the professor's couch and pretended to go sleep. But by then and stuff, they already got him. Okay. Anyway, they arrested him and took him down to Provo City Jail, where they booked him for burglary third degree, which is a Class C felony. Okay. I actually burglary second, I believe. They charged him with, which was a Class C felony, entering a building, unauthorized entering of a building, and for the purpose of committing a crime, which was the crime was stealing information. Okay, so he was taken down there, booked at at Provo City Jail. However, in less than an hour after receiving call from this guy's uncle, who was well connected, very high up in the Mormon Church, this guy was released, and all records, our records, the reporting, the catching, uh, the agency that actually caught him in the act and stuff couldn't file reports. Nothing's there. Okay. Eventually, this man agreed to be let go from BYU. He was expelled, but the uncle found a way to get him into the same um, academic discipline at BYU. He was able to get him to go to University of Utah through his connections. Now, the interesting thing about it is that, uh, and how does this relate to my dream? Well, the building that this man was caught in is the Tanner Building. The Tanner Building is built on the southern edge of BYU campus, and it's a tall granite building. The office where this professor's office was near the top of this granite building. Now, that's where he was caught. Okay, and it was a great fall for him because he brought embarrassment to his family name, and it exposed him for the type of person he really was: dishonorable cheat. Okay, and so this is a fulfillment of the dream I had. And he was given a lot of opportunities to change, but he felt that cheating was the easiest way to, you know, get around his problem. Okay, so this is my prophetic dream, and this is also part of a collection of stories that I wrote in my book, The Journey of Our Souls. You can get more details there if you want more details on this story. You can get a hard copy by looking at by going to my website, thejourneyofursouls.com, or you can download a copy from Amazon. Okay. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here this Sunday, and hope you folks enjoyed these stories. And please recommend my channel to other people who may enjoy this too. And until next time, this is Dave Wallace saying aloha.